right.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rita, and I am the Program and Technology Specialist here for the Wood County Committee on Aging. And I'm extremely excited to have Mike McMaster back. He's been doing a program for us every single month, thankfully. And so you're from the Wood County Museum, and you're the education coordinator, right?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I'll let you take it away. Thank you for being here.
Hello. Thanks for inviting me. We have a total of 3 other people other than myself, and this is a brand new program I've never given to anyone else, and the 3 of us, or 4 of us, will be the most educated people on this subject in the county.
I look forward to it.
Go to share my screen now. My computer has had a little bit of a problem running PowerPoint and Zoom at the same time. So if it does crash, I can fix it, but it will take a few minutes. Here we go. All right, share my screen. There we go. Can you see that okay? Let's see if it'll work. All right, can you see that? All right.
Yep, sure do.
This program is entitled The Misorigin of Historical Tradition, How History Got Things Wrong. And this is part 1 of a series, and this is, of the series, probably the most interesting of the topics. And this is the mystery of the Count of Presque Isle. There aren't too many counts in Wood County history, but we will learn supposedly about one and unravel a history mystery. Now, the man on the left was named Benson Losing. He came to the Maumee River in the 1860s, the late 1860s. He was a historian, a very careful historian and engraver, and he was writing a book called The Pictorial Field Book of the War of 1812. And when Losing arrived on the Maumee River, there still were War of 1812 veterans who lived along the Maumee River. He was also a careful historian. He was a historian in the 1860s who was way ahead of his time. And these are some of the careful engravings he made. Now, the map is a little small, but what Losing did was copy Anthony Wayne's map of the Maumee River. One of the things that he copied on Anthony Wayne's map, you see Wayne's encampment at Rush-to-Boo at the bottom. You see where Waterville is today, and you notice highlighted in red is a place called Presque Isle. Now, there are 2 Presque Isles on the Maumee River, and neither one of them are actually islands. Presque Isle in French means almost island. So it's almost an island. And there is also a Presque Isle in Pennsylvania as well. But historian Charles Evers, he mentions Presque Isle 3 times in the Historical Record of Wood County, Volume 1. Charles Evers wrote the first 11 chapters of that book. The first time he mentions it, it is where the Battle of Fallen Timbers was fought in 1794. The second time he mentions Presque Isle is where General Hull crossed the Maumee River in the War of 1812. And the third time, and Charles Evers made many wild historical claims. He was a storyteller. This is perhaps the wildest historical claim. That the third time is he mentions the mansion of Count Pierre Louis Lapointe, which got my little brain thinking. Now, you do not have to read this. It's a little blurry, but Charles Evers, who was born in Miltonville, just down the river in Wood County in 1837, wrote, "In traveling down the river, the Maumee River, from Miltonville to Perrysburg, one may look across the river and see the site of the home established by Count Pierre-Louis Lapointe, who left France in boyhood to take part with Lafayette in aiding the Continental Army under General George Washington. He did not return home to France, but selected a spot west of Presque Hill for a large residence, surrounding himself with male attendants, and held 2 receptions there annually until his death. He is buried in the orchard with an apple tree for a headstone." And he states that Joel Foote states that he was much beloved by settlers. Now, this is a kind of a wild claim that there was French nobility living along the Maumee River. Charles Evers also mentions one other person other than Washington and Lafayette that we can look up, and that is Joel Foote. Now, Evers wrote that Joel Foote states that Count Lapointe was much beloved by settlers. Now, who was Joel Foote? According to the historical record of Wood County, Joel Foote was born in Massachusetts in 1815, the son of Epaphroditus Foote. Joel Foote came with his parents to Granger Island along the Maumee River in 1829. His father ran a distillery and then conducted a hotel in Miltonville, Wood County from 1835 to 1841, and owned a farm near Haskins. Now, Charles Evers, there is Miltonville, the ghost town of Wood County. Charles Evers was 16 years younger than, as he calls him, Uncle Joel Foote, and together, Joel Foote and Charles Evers formed the Pioneer Historical Association in 1884, the founding of historical societies in Wood County. Now, Charles Evers' grandfather was a ferryman along the river in Miltonville. His name was Johnson White. Johnson White, or Charles Evers' grandfather, and Joel Foote's father also would have known Antoine, or as they called him, Anthony Lapointe. Anthony Lapointe was issued a license to sell merchandise at Presque by the Wood County Court in Perrysburg in 1823. Antoine Lapointe was granted one of the very first licenses to sell in Wood County. Now, the map above is West Waynesfield Township, where Maumee is at today. At that time in 1823, it was part of Wood County. So Charles Evers' grandfather would have known this man. Joel Foote would have been a little boy, but his father would have known Antoine Lapointe at this time. Now, what do we know about Antoine Lapointe? It is impossible to know exactly who he was, but we do know there is a signature that with the 1830 census of Waynesfield Township, which was then Wood County, today Maumee, that he registered 2 white males between the ages of 40 and 49, and 1 white male between the ages of 60 and 69. This is the same page that Joel Foote, the historian, his father, signed the same census. They would have known each other. We also know that Antoine Lapointe died on March 13th, 1831, and his will and sale of his goods is recorded at the courthouse in Wood County. Now, the Wood County Court's records of purchasers of Antoine's LaPointe estate shortly after his death in April of 1832 reads like a who's who of early Maumee River pioneers. It includes names like Conants, Howards, Walcotts, Knaggs, John Hunt, Farnsworth, Peter Navarre, John Houtreau, or Peter Menard, John Houtreau Navarre, Haskins, Lovitz, Guns, Vances, Amos Spafford, along with several men also named LaPointe, including Nathaniel Point. And during this auction, all of the late Antoine LaPointe's goods were sold. The highest bids were $119 by Nathaniel LaPointe for a mare, a horse, and David Hodges purchased a yoke of oxen for $54. This sale records everything from bedding to shovels, and nothing indicates that Antoine LaPointe was French nobility, a count at Presque Isle. It also is interesting to note that Joel Foote's father owed Antoine LaPointe $16.75, which the court collected from Joel Foote's father. Now, let's say that in that census, the white male between 60 and 69 was Anthony LaPointe. He would have been maybe 69 years old. That meant he would have been born somewhere around 1762. The Revolutionary War hero Marquis de Lafayette arrived in America in 1777 and participated in the Siege of Yorktown, meaning that Antoine LaPointe could have been at the Battle of Yorktown in the Revolutionary War in 1781 at maybe 18 years of age. But was Antoine the French Count of Charles Evers' story? Now, we know that Antoine LaPointe, as well as all the other LaPointes and like Peter Navarre to the right, were not French Revolutionary War soldiers. They were French Canadians. The French Canadians actually were quite loyal to the British in the Revolutionary War. The LaPointes and people like Navarre at the right were born and raised near Detroit on the River Raisin. After Anthony Wayne's battle at Fallen Timbers, they moved to a place on the Maumee River called Presque Isle. Here, Peter Navarre lived, and the LaPointes lived. It's impossible to know if Antoine LaPointe was with these, but we can guess that he was. Peter Navarre states that at Presque Isle in 1808, before the War of 1812, Presque Isle was situated on a grassy plat containing 60 log houses, hewed and whitewashed, laid out in 2 rows, which presented a cheerful and pleasant appearance to Peter Navarre. Antoine LaPointe parents, as we can determine, were not French nobility, but were born around Montreal in the mid-1700s. Antoine LaPointe's time in history occurred when Uncle Joel Foote, one of the founders of historical societies, was quite young, and before Charles Evers was even born. Charles Evers never met this man. When Charles Evers wrote the account of the Count of Presque Isle Hill, that was 65 years after Antoine LaPointe's death. I believe that Charles Evers and Joel Foote were confusing their historical stories. If you can see, this is a map of Lucas County, but at one time this all was Wood County. If you look right under the words Maumee Bay, you will see Presque Isle settlement, where the French had built those 60 log homes. In 1823, it's impossible to know, did they mean Presque Isle settlement on the Maumee River or Presque Isle Hill? I believe Antoine Lapointe was selling merchandise in what is near Maumee today. Unfortunately for us, that is the historical marker, the very first state historical marker in Lucas County, at one time Wood County. That's the Presque Isle historical marker. Can you go visit it? No, you cannot. It is in the center of the port of Toledo, and I've driven up there, surrounded by mile and mile of barbed wire topped chain link fence. But I happen to have a close-up picture, and it says Presque Isle. Near this site, Scout Peter Navarre built in 1807 a log cabin close by an Ottawa village of 60 whitewashed cabins. Here he maintained friendly relations between white settlers and Chief Otoki. The 1833 Treaty of Maumee gave 320 acres of this region to the Indians, who later sold Presque Isle, which was not an island, for $1,000. Presque Isle is now at the heart of Port of Toledo activity, and this was put up by the Oregon Jerusalem Historical Society, and this is the very first state historical marker in Lucas County. That is the last slide. And like I said, when Charles Evers was writing about the Count of Presque Isle Hill, that was 65 years after Antoine Lapointe. Just like little kids get stories mixed up today, I believe that these people were confusing the simple man, Antoine Lapointe, with a count. I hope everybody could hear me okay. Give me a thumbs up if you could hear me okay. Good. I'm
great.
Good.
Yep.
I'm broadcasting from a little bit different location at the museum, so I'm glad everybody could hear me okay. If there are any questions, now we will be the only people in Wood County to know this story.
Wow. Well, I prompted all of you to unmute if you would like to be unmuted to comment or ask a question to Mike.
Just to clarify, did you say Miltonville it's now Perrysburg, part of Perrysburg?
On the road from Miltonville to Perrysburg. Miltonville sits very close to the Waterville River Bridge. In fact, if you drive from Haskins to the Waterville Bridge, there is no Miltonville except for a state historical marker, but that is where Charles Evers, his father, his mother's father, Joel Foote, his father, that is where they lived at one time, but there is no Miltonville today.
That I understood. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything from you, Danilda?
I know, I thought it was very interesting, but you know, you just don't realize what went on 60, 80, 90 years ago.
It would be just like my 12-year-old son telling stories about the 1940s and getting things mixed up.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
He might hear a story from a grandparent, and when he is old man, get that story mixed up. But when the Navarres and Lapointes, these French Canadians, lived on the Maumee River during the Revolutionary War, they helped the British. It would not have been possible for a French count helping America live in this British territory at that
Okay.
time. So that's another thing that got my curiosity, because Great Britain, even though this was part of the Northwest Territory, people like Little Turtle, Tecumseh, and the British still controlled this area. And they were not letting George Washington's officers settle here with big houses.
Hmm.
So I think it fits with Tall Tale.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you very much, Mike. We sure do appreciate it.
All right, and I look forward to seeing this posted. If any of you can find the Facebook page of the museum, I post every Friday, and our curator posts once or twice a week. She's very sporadic, but I post every Friday. I believe the next program is,
Well, and our January newsletters
know.
just went out. So let me take a little peek here. We've got one in January with Mike, and it's about the Transcontinental Airport of Toledo.
as we would know, Metcalf Field. And in February, we will talk about the ghosts of Digby, not actual ghosts, but ghost town, on top of a ghost town, on top of a ghost railroad, on top of a ghost road. So stay tuned for both Metcalf Field in January and the ghosts of Digby, Ohio in February. I look forward to giving that one.
We are looking forward to it as well. Thank you, Mike. Happy holidays. Have a great one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.